Yes, welcome everyone to the Pop and Wrestling Podcast with me, Coach 23. And today's topic is our last part, the Mount Rushmore era talk. Uh, First three episodes, if you have seen it, if you haven't, please do so. We'd really appreciate it. We have talked, Mount Rushmore from the Rock and Wrestling Golden Age era, New Generation era, Attitude era, Ruthless Aggression era, PG era, and what I call the WWE Network era. So if you like those lists, like and subscribe, leave a comment and whatnot, spread the word. If you don't, still do the same. As long as you don't bash a family member, I'm all good. I'm open. Just me only. So yeah, we will talk about the last two era that I think is significant with WWE. One is actually in the past, and the other is currently. So let's talk about first the Thunderdome era or the pandemic era. So 2019, WWE had a competition now with AEW. There was a period of time that WWE was suffering from like the half of the arena that they were being produced or whichever show was half and half. Vince McMahon at the time when he was the chairman and CEO scrambled to sign talents for longer term contracts, but didn't pan out when AEW was like in just trying to attack the niche audience. So this was around 2018, 2019. 2020 happened to one of the worst times in this era, in this timeline, pandemic era. Everything around March 2020, everything was shut down. Businesses, everything. Lockdown was in effect in all countries or almost all countries, including here in Manila. But WWE was about to produce WrestleMania 36 at the Raymond James Stadium, Buccaneers Stadium at Tampa, but they have to, no, everything was shut down. NFL, NBA, hockey, MLB, everything was shut down except for WWE. Since according to the U.S. government at the time, even every government, you can do a lockdown, you can do just a show as long as you do like safety protocols. So WWE eventually being performed at the Performance Center for WrestleMania 36, and then eventually they rented or leased Tropicana Stadium, which Royal Rumble happened this year. Yeah, this year. And eventually there was like typhoon that damaged the roof of the said stadium, baseball stadium. But around the time, the Tropicana Stadium, Field Stadium, was home of the Thunderdome, which is now we're going to talk about the Thunderdome era. So, who are my Mount Rushmore during this time at the Thunderdome era? First name in my list is Drew McIntyre, Scottish warrior, Scottish psychopath. So eventually, around 2020, January 2020, uh, Drew McIntyre won, which I believe was one of the best Royal Rumbles ever because they told two stories during that match, or even three if you include another one. So the first half of the story was Brock Lesnar dominating the first 15 guys of, you know, the match, eventually getting eliminated by Drew McIntyre, the eventual winner. And maybe part of the storytelling there was the return of Edge. So at the Thunderdome era, uh, Drew McIntyre was like next in line to win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Brock Lesnar was the champion, and he was supposed to defend the belt at WrestleMania 36. He did that, but however, WrestleMania happened and the Performance Center with no audience. They even taped it before the week before the Sunday of the match, so it was like a recorded match. Uh, Drew McIntyre won, and he had a great reign during this time as the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. You know, leading the charge for WWE. Monday Night Raw's ratings was like in a upward and downward state, but he eventually carried the business during this time. So if everyone asks me, Drew McIntyre deserved to be one of the Mount Rushmore of this era, of the Thunderdome era. He is the face of the Thunderdome era, along with guys like Bobby Lashley, Roman Reigns, even at the time, The Fiend. But eventually, on my list, you will be surprised who are them. So another name on the Thunderdome era of Mount Rushmore list is the visionary Seth Rollins. So this is the second list that Seth Rollins is part of in terms of this era. So Seth Rollins was like the good guy around 2019. He was the face because he won against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 35, held the Universal Championship around October until he lost it to the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, and he became a heel again. And this time he is no longer the architect, he is the visionary, the Messiah. Monday Night Messiah was actually one of my favorite Seth Rollins character. He eventually teamed up with Authors of Pain, feuded with guys like Samoa Joe, Kevin Owens, and had that brilliant match against Kevin Owens at WrestleMania 36 as well at the Performance Center. He even have like Buddy Murphy as part of his disciples. And for me, this was one of his best characters. So he didn't really feud that much against Drew McIntyre, but he feuded with guys like Rey Mysterio, Aleister Black. Dominic Mysterio was his first match at SummerSlam 2020 at the Thunderdome as well. And he had great feuds. He, as a heel, he really he was the glue that stuck the company, and deservingly, in my eyes, he should be part of the Mount Rushmore era of the Thunderdome era. And third on my list, rest in peace, was Bray Wyatt for the Fiend. He had a great feud with like I said, Seth Rollins, Braun Strowman, Randy Orton during the Thunderdome era. So even that burning alive match or burn alive Inferno match that they had. Forgot was it in TLC or a pay per view there, which was he was burnt alive, or at least a mannequin or whatnot was burnt alive. But this was the time that the Fiend really stuck as a great character because he was even he was like treated as a baby face with his feud with Randy Orton and even Seth Rollins or even Braun Strowman. He was the baby face. Even yeah, he had a match with a triple threat match with against Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman for the Universal Championship. He held the Universal Championship as well, and Bray Wyatt, the Fiend character, is actually the one of the scariest. Especially when just the mask alone. If you don't, if you're not you're just a fan of wrestling and you're not really a casual fan, or you're a casual fan, you will be scared of the Fiend. And eventually, he really carried the WWE in terms of business wise at the time during the Thunderdome era, and in my opinion, is one of the top creations of WWE as a performer and as a character. So rest in peace, Bray Wyatt, especially with the Fiend. Um, in terms of his characters, I like the Wyatt family, the original Wyatt family, but the Fiend was actually one of my favorite at the time, followed by the Wyatt family, the original one with Eric Rowan and rest in peace, Luke Harper. And last on the list for the Thunderdome era Mount Rushmore is Randy Orton. So I'm sorry, no, it's not Randy Orton. It's Roman Reigns. So Roman Reigns actually was supposed to wrestle Goldberg for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania 36, but at the time everyone knows that Roman Reigns have a battle with leukemia. He's already in remission at the time, but of course, COVID protocols happen. His immune system might, be targeted. So he said, told WWE, you know what? I am not going to wrestle or compete at WrestleMania 36. He forgo. So when the Thunderdome era became in fruition and it happened at, Tropicana Field Stadium, he eventually, felt better, and he attacked both Braun Strowman and The Fiend Bray Wyatt in their match, SummerSlam, to interject himself at the Universal title picture on SmackDown, and he became a heel. When he was interviewed backstage, he was like, why are you coming back? And I was promised a World Universal title shot, and I'm getting it at Payback in a triple threat match against Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt. And he told everyone that it's not a prediction and he will win it. It's not a prediction, but it's a spoiler. Pan the camera, who's sitting next to him. He wasn't a wise man back then yet, but Paul Heyman. So Paul Heyman was starting to become his wise man in council to the tribal chief and the island of relevancy. And the suggestion that he gave Roman Reigns is don't sign the contract until it's time. And he signed it when it's time after Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt bit the shit about each other. Signed the contract, speared 1, 2, 3, and you have your Universal Championship, Roman Reigns. Thus, the beginning of the Tribal Chief era or storyline or the Bloodline era. He feuded with guys like Jay Uso, Jimmy Uso, Matt Riddle, Finn Balor, Bray Wyatt, among other names, Edge, Daniel Bryan, John Cena, Brock Lesnar. But as far as during the Thunderdome era, I have to put this in my him in my list in the Thunderdome era, especially because this was the genesis of the Bloodline storyline. So those are my list for the Thunderdome era, and the last list of the Mount Rushmore eras of WWE is the Paul Levesque era. So this is the era right now that we're having. So who are in my list? So number one on my list is still Roman Reigns in terms of uh for this era. So this is like the third list that he's in, third straight. So why Roman is in this? Because like I said, during the Thunderdome era, this was the beginning, or that was the beginning of the Bloodline, storyline, and it continues or still being continued until now, as we speak. Business impact of Roman Reigns during the Thunderdome era to this era is, astronomical in terms of finances or business wise for WWE. He generated a lot of revenue, a lot of sponsorship because of, Roman Reigns being the face of the company. And like said, there were like rumors that he is currently guaranteed wise, he is the guaranteed highest salary of $15 million per year, bigger than Brock Lesnar ever had, Undertaker ever had, Cody Rhodes, John Cena, Roman Reigns historically in WWE, if that's correct, he is the highest paid for a guaranteed salary ever. I know in AEW they say it's the MJF with the same amount, but the thing is, MJF is being treated as a mid card right now in mid card feuds. Roman Reigns is still in the main event level, so there's no doubt that Roman Reigns should be a part of the Paul Levesque era because of the business impact that he still generates for WWE and TKO in general. So next in my list of the Paul Levesque era is the current WWE champion, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. So Cody Rhodes initially was in WWE around 2008, 2009. Uh, Initially as the son of Dusty Rhodes, then joined Randy Orton and Ted DiBiase Jr. as part of Legacy. Eventually break out, part of the Rhodes family against a feud against the Authority, feuded with Shield. being a tag team champion with his brother Dustin Rhodes, Goldust at the time, eventually being Stardust, and he left WWE to 2016 after being jaded as being Goldust. There was heavily rumored that their plan for Cody Rhodes was like he is Goldust on Raw and he is Cody Rhodes on SmackDown. Eventually, they will have the first like cinematic match that eventually didn't happen. That with a match between Gold Stardust and Cody Rhodes, and the eventual winner will be the the Prime character. But eventually, it didn't happen. No, but Vince at McMahon or the creative didn't see that as a potential money gainer. Eventually, he asked for a release, and he toiled the independent scene. The independent scene, he was still a bad guy. He was a heel, and him starting to be he started the genesis or the start or the beginning of the American Nightmare character. You know, Kingdom Song from downstate. Everything started at the independent scene. Eventually, he's jumping from TNA or Impact at the time, GFW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor. Eventually, I believe he was a Ring of Honor champion, IWGP US champion, I believe. He won titles around the independent scene. He joined. He was a member of the Bullet Club team on New Japan Pro Wrestling, but he wasn't a leader. Was you know he was part of the elite with the Young Bucks, which is like an inner group within the Bullet Club. And yeah, around 2018, a handshake bet between Dave Meltzer and the elite that Dave Meltzer said that after WWE, no independent company will be able to fill out 10,000 seaters, and the elite did that with the first All In around 2018. Eventually, the history knows Tony Khan backed them up. They created All Elite Wrestling. Uh, he was a multiple-time TNT champion at All Elite Wrestling. He was the top babyface. He was eventually him and Chris Jericho were like neck and neck of who was the face of AEW until he decided to leave around 2020, 2022. And after being jaded with AEW, he rejoined WWE around WrestleMania 38 and become Seth Rollins' mystery opponent at WrestleMania 38. Feuded for they had like a three series of matches. Eventually, he got injured, torn his pectoral muscle, and and then great Hell in a Cell match. Eventually, got his muscles fixed and came back last year, 2023. Won the Royal Rumble, challenged Roman Reigns for the WWE World Championship at WrestleMania 39. He lost and eventually carried the company as the face of the company that's not holding the title. And he was if there's like a John Cena right now, he is the John Cena of WWE in terms of popularity wise. And around early this year at WrestleMania 40, he finished the story of winning the WWE World Championship, of a feat that his father and his brother wasn't able to do or weren't able to do. And he, at this day of age of people still liking the anti-heroes, Cody Rhodes is the ultimate good guy and is carrying the company. I believe he's like top three or top four of fanatics in terms of merchandise sales. All athletes, NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB, WWE, UFC. Cody Rhodes in the top five, top four, I believe. And I believe his guaranteed salary, according to reports, is 12 million per year. But if I'm going to do the math in my head, if that's the case, he's earning more than Roman Reigns in terms of finances within a year, because of the Fanatics merchandise sales. And like right now, along with Roman Reigns, he is the face of WWE. Undeniable. From undesirable to undeniable. So kudos to Cody Rhodes as being part of the Hall of Mount Rushmore of this Triple era. Next on my list is Drew McIntyre. Why Drew McIntyre again? Because he is also the a glue, whether he was a babyface or a heel during this era. Uh, his brilliant feud with CM Punk only this year certified his place as a Mount Rushmore caliber of this Bolivec era. In terms of being a heel, he was the guy telling the truth, and the truth hurts. People are booing him because they like CM Punk. But the thing is, Drew McIntyre feuded with a lot of guys, Damian Priest, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, as a bad guy, as a heel, and he is still a draw to some. And eventually, his contract was supposed to be up this year, and they resign him for undisclosed amount, probably around $8 to $10 million per year, and still being produced as a top face of the company. I can't wait to watch Drew McIntyre. He's still relatively young. I believe I'm older than him, and can still wait to where he can bring him or bring WWE in the next few years. Last on my list is another third timer, Seth Rollins. So Seth Rollins, the past of Polivek era, he's really a Polivek guy. He, along with Drew, carried or was the glue of the company. He was a heel last 2 years, the past 2 years. Eventually became a babyface despite having the same character of the weird, unique clothes. And eventually last year he won the inaugural World Heavyweight Championship, beating AJ Styles, holding the title for 8 to 9 months, eventually losing it to Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania 40 this year, and also being a part before losing the title at WrestleMania Sunday, part of his first main event of WrestleMania, uh, against teaming up with him and Cody Rhodes against The Rock and Roman Reigns. But most plans are saying that eventually he'll be the main event at WrestleMania Night One if CM Punk wasn't injured at the time. And I believe that's so. I believe that's the match that they are trying to go for WrestleMania One, CM Punk versus Seth Rollins Night One main event. But yeah, and he resigned with WWE with an undisclosed amount, probably the same range as Drew McIntyre, between 8 to 10 million per year. He will be a part of Captain America: Brave New World next year. Hopefully he's not cut, but hopefully he's still there because Seth Rollins is also a draw whenever or wherever he is needed from the WWE. So those are my Mount Rushmore for the Polevec era. So our era talk is over. Let's have like 10 minutes more of talk. I know people will comment, why is this name not part of the Mount Rushmore talk? Because I don't see him as a Mount Rushmore anymore. I see him as the Washington Monument, as the Statue of Liberty of WWE. And that guy is named The Undertaker. Undertaker, why? That I didn't put him in a Mount Rushmore talk. Roman Reigns has multiple Mount Rushmore. Seth Rollins in multiple Mount Rushmore. John Cena's multiple Mount Rushmore. Simple. Because Undertaker was the constant. He was the glue. He was the character of, you know, supposedly an occupational type of wrestler when he was the time during the late 80s. He was part of the latter part of the new generation or the golden age of rock and wrestling because he's feuding with guys like Hulk Hogan, eventually beating Hulk Hogan for the WWE Championship, and he uh he also was part of the new generation era, with guys like Diesel, Razor Ramon, Yokozuna, Bret Hart. He was part of the Attitude Era with Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, and The Rock. He was part of the Ruthless Aggression, as the American Badass, feuding with guys like Brock Lesnar, Batista, Randy Orton. He was part of the PG era, feuding with guys like Shawn Michaels, Triple H, He was part of the reality era, feuding with guys like Triple H again, uh, Chris Jericho, among other names. Thunderdome era, he was there until he eventually retired, feuding with guys with among names like Bray Wyatt, AJ Styles, in his last match and the Boneyard match at WrestleMania 36 until he eventually retired. So he's not just part of the Ruthless or his last part was the Thunderdome era. That was his last part, just not part of the Polybec. He entered the Polybec era when he chokeslammed The Rock WrestleMania 40. I didn't include him in the Mount Rushmore because he's not part of the Mount Rushmore. He stands alone as, in my mind, in my opinion, as the greatest creation for a WWE superstar. He was supposed to be an occupational because an Undertaker is an occupation anywhere. Eventually became a legend. He became the American Badass using the same name. He eventually went back to the Dead Man character with still having that attitude of, the American Badass. He was constant. I don't need to put him in any Mount Rushmore because, like I said, he's the Statue of Liberty. He's the Washington Monument. He stands alone. So before any of you bash why I didn't name him here, and here's the reason why. He's the constant. He is it. In terms of me, the greatest WWE superstar ever. Sure, you can give them in terms of finances, the business impact they gave. You can give me your Roman Reigns, John Cena, Hogan, Austin Rock. But in terms of being constant and consistent, Undertaker is always there. He never leaves the top. The only mid card title that he ever held was a hardcore title, and he even elevated that against matches like Rob Van Dam. So, in my mind, The Undertaker, Mark Calloway, Hall of Famer, he is the greatest WWE superstar of all time, WWE performer of all time. He might have like bad matches, but one too few many. And it's not even his fault. But if ever that you ask me, I would recommend you to watch WrestleMania 25 against Shawn Michaels and WrestleMania 27 and 28 against Triple H. And those are really the best Undertaker matches ever in terms of big man against Kane, WrestleMania 14, hardcore matches against Mankind, SummerSlam 1996, casket match against Yokozuna. Great storytelling with a lot of the Million Dollar Family and heels attacking him, trying to put him in the casket. That's how great and how constant and consistent the Undertaker is and was in terms of being a superstar. I didn't even need to put him in a Mount Rushmore. He is his own mountain. He is his own statue. He is, like I said, Statue of Liberty, Mount Washington Monument. They don't have any, anyone beside them or those monuments, beside them. They stand alone, and that's what Undertaker is in the WWE in terms for me, business impact, consistency, being the best and biggest name alone. So Undertaker is not a part of Mark Rushmore, but he is indeed a statue or a legend of his own. So yeah, that's it. Mount Rushmore talk is over. Maybe we'll talk about NWA, WCW, AEW, ECW in the next few times, episodes, if ever. So thank you for joining me in this wonderful group of episodes of the Mount Rushmore at WWE Eras Talk. And Undertaker is the best ever. So thank you for joining me in the Pop in Wrestling podcast with me, Coach 23. I'll see you guys soon.